morning, good morning, good morning. Hello, class of 2018. Welcome to the commencement for the Archer School for Girls, class of 2018. I'm Frank Marshall, chair of Archer's Board of Trustees, and I stand here in awe of these young women who so beautifully and boldly exemplify Archer's ambitious, joyful mission to graduate the future female leaders of this country. Archer was founded 22 years ago, but our mission is now more relevant than ever. Despite the gender inequity that persists in our world, we see at Archer how girls soar when they are given the space, resources, and support they deserve. The extraordinary accomplishments of this class embolden and inspire us as we look ahead to Archer's future and imagine how our school can continue to be a thought leader in the empowerment and education of girls. On behalf of the entire Board of Trustees, I want to congratulate the class of 2018 and their families. And it's now my honor to introduce our head of school, the one and only Elizabeth English. Whose fearless leadership continues to take Archer and our students to new heights. Elizabeth.
Deep breath. You look so beautiful. Thank you, Frank. Good morning and welcome, everyone. A very special welcome to everyone who's traveled a distance to celebrate the class of 2018 with us today. And a special welcome to all of our alumni who are here. Welcome home. It's so good to see you. Before we begin, I'd like to thank all of the staff and facilities crew who made this beautiful day possible. Moving this operation to a new site was not a simple matter, but they knew how important today was for these 69 Archer girls sitting on this stage. Thank you, all of you. I'd, of course, also like to recognize the members of our Board of Trustees for their generosity and service to the Archer School for Girls, guided at all times by their belief in our feminist mission and their pride in the empowered young women we graduate. In particular, I'd like to thank and recognize Archer Board Chair, Frank Marshall, also an alumni parent, by the way. Frank has optimistically led our community through the trying headwinds of our efforts to provide our girls and their teachers with the facilities they deserve. And it isn't due in large measure to Frank and his wife and trustee Kathleen Kennedy's humbling generosity that we will complete our new academic center in the spring of next year with state-of-the-art classrooms and finally a kitchen and student center that will live up to our other identity, the Archer School for Food. But above all, our new academic center will provide teaching and learning spaces worthy of our faculty and students' unbridled creativity and collaboration across disciplines. So on behalf of the entire Archer community, thank you, Frank, and thank you for remaining focused on the long game and for your commitment to continuing the dream that our founders began. And speaking of our visionary founders, we are fortunate to have two of them here with us today. Would you please stand, Dr. Diana Meehan and Ms. Megan Calloway. We are are so grateful for your vision, and as Frank said, little did you know that it would be ever more important 23 years later. So thank you, and thank you for being here. Finally, a very special welcome to our guest speaker, Ms. Lisa Ling. She clearly stands as a role model for these graduates, in particular given their extraordinary award-winning team of student journalists in this class. Really incredible. Our graduates are excited and grateful to have a speaker who is so obviously an honorary Archer girl, unafraid to push the boundaries and ask the questions that others might not have the courage to ask. Thank you, Ms. Ling, for being here with us this morning to celebrate this beautiful and powerful class. And celebrate we must, for the level and breadth of your accomplishments are stunning. Since I mentioned student journalism and publications, I want to share a little bit of what you've accomplished in that realm this year. You led the Oracle, Archer's online news site, to its most distinguished year yet, including a Best of Show award at the National High School Journalism Convention, an All-American rating from the National Scholastic Press Association, or NSPA, including 5 marks of distinction, and 2 of you were named to the NSPA Honor Roll for your long-standing service to the Oracle, as well as your demonstrated scholarship. For your Oracle editor-in-chief won a Wyckoff Scholarship for editorial leadership, and for the second time, you led the Oracle to win an online Pacemaker Award, widely considered the Pulitzer Prize of student journalism. I wasn't even done. Finally, you have helped build a journalism program worthy of the First Amendment Press Freedom Award, which Archer has now received 3 years in a row. And this award recognizes private and public high schools that actively support, teach, and protect First Amendment rights and responsibilities of students and teachers, with an emphasis on student-run media, where students make all final decisions of content. Okay, settle in. I'm going to talk a little bit about the athletics accomplishments you have helped us achieve. This is a long list, so here we go. You led 5 varsity teams to cinch league championships, and you did this literally with no facilities, since we are under construction, no on-campus facilities. Undoubtedly, you lost more time traveling to and from practices than any other team in your league, and still you dominated through your dedicated practice, your perseverance, and above all, your Archer teamwork. You know how to be a team, you know how to be sisters, and that took you to the top. And guess what? It always will. In volleyball, in addition to being league championships, you were Milken tournament champs and led your team to win Archer's first CIF Southern Section title. One of you was named League MVP and Division VII Player of the Year. In cross country, you finished 3rd in league and qualified for CIF prelims. One of you was named first team All-League. In tennis, you took 2nd place in the Liberty League and qualified for CIF playoffs. In basketball, you advanced to the 2nd round of the CIF Southern Section playoffs, and one of you was named to the All-CIF team. In soccer, you won the league championship, and one of you was named Liberty League MVP. In track, you won the league championship for the first time in school history. Still going. In swimming, you routinely beat other teams in their own pools to win the league championship for the 4th straight year. You placed 11th out of 120 schools in your division, and one of you, league MVP, will be the first Archer swimmer to sign for an NCAA school. You led led beach volleyball to qualify for playoffs for the second straight season. And if that weren't enough, thanks to your merciless all-CIF pitcher, softball won its 4th straight league championship. And is headed with confidence to the Final Four on Tuesday. In academics and publications, you won medals in the national language exams, edited and contributed to Archer's literary and art magazine Pillars of Salt, and received an excellent rating from the National Council of Teachers of English, which places Arlit Mag as one of the top rated in the nation. Your honor, yes, that deserves applause. Okay, and I do this every year. I read a few titles of your honors research in science and humanities papers because they're mind-boggling. They're mind-boggling. People don't realize that we're doing this work at Archer, and it's stunning. Your honors research in science presentations included novel modular system for residential living green walls, or how about the effect of decreasing saltwater pH on the nutritional value of Nanochloropsis phytoplankton. It's good stuff. You helped lead Archer's Invent team to be selected as a Lemelson MIT Excite Award recipient and finalist for the 2nd time in a row. And it's not surprising that 30% of you will go on to major in the STEM fields in college. You dazzled your peers, teachers, and parents with your honors research in humanities, including fear in fiction and film, illegal aliens, how science fiction cinema anticipated the rise of xenophobia in modern America, aesthetics and identity, watermelons in the Sahara tent, photography and postmodernism at Coachella. In service, you brought impassioned leadership and heightened the Archer community's awareness of issues of environmental sustainability. Through your work with Best Buddies and other organizations committed to serving people with intellectual disabilities, you demonstrated the true meaning of inclusivity. You chaired and served on Archer's Honor Education Council, led Black Student Union to be one of our most active and well-attended clubs in the school, and helped our community have hard conversations about race in America and inclusivity at Archer. You were skilled peer mediators and mentors to your younger, very adolescent Archer sisters. One of you received the Teen Maths Hero Award for your work with teen suicide and mental health awareness, and one of you received the Brentwood Youth Citizen Award. In the arts, in this year's Scholastic Art and Writing Awards, you helped Archer bring home an impressive total of 60 distinctions in painting, drawing, ceramics, and photography, including 2 highly coveted national awards. And yes, and the many thespians among you won at the Drama Teachers Association of Southern California in monologues, large group comedy, and, fittingly, strong leading ladies. We're proud of these accomplishments, class of 2018, but not for the ways in which they aggrandize you or the school, but for what they reveal about your character. You have been one of the most grateful groups I have ever seen come through here in my 10 years, honestly. When we began construction and tore down the building you'd grown up in, along with the Slounge, senior lounge, rather than being sad for yourselves, you were happy to see Archer moving forward and glad to know that your teachers and all the Archer girls who would come after you would benefit. And rather than clinging to the disappointment about not graduating under the tent on Archer's campus, you delighted at the sight of this beautiful space yesterday. I think this is what Maya Warnick meant when she described you as a class who, despite all the change, engaged in limited freakouts. Not only are you grateful and not prone to freakouts, your class has a very loving way about you. A little while ago, the 6th grade music class was putting on a School of Rock concert in the Rose Room. And to be honest, they weren't the most harmonious ensemble. And they're in 6th grade, so. But a sizable group from your class, despite all your impending finals and papers, were sitting there on the floor, rocking full out regardless. I guess Maya Winkler said it best. Love is everywhere here at Archer. Before I close, I'd like to ask that we all show some love to this exceptional faculty. Would you please stand, Archer? When the particulars of calculus and French and computational physics fall away, what you will remember about this place are these girls seated beside you and these teachers. You'll remember the love. Class of 2018, on behalf of the entire Archer faculty and staff, congratulations.
Hello. It is such a privilege to be introducing our commencement speaker. The class of 2018 is fierce and fearless, so it would only make sense that we welcome Ms. Lisa Ling, who is the embodiment of these characteristics. Lisa Ling is the executive producer and host of This Is Life on CNN. For 5 seasons prior, Ms. Ling executive produced and hosted Our America on OWN. She was also a field correspondent for the Oprah Winfrey Show and contributor to ABC News' Nightline. Ms. Ling was the first female host of National Geographic's flagship show, Explorer, which sent her to cover the phenomenon of female suicide bombing and the spread of the MS-13 gang, as well as a humanitarian crisis inside North Korea. She got her start in journalism as a correspondent for Channel 1 News, where she covered the civil war in Afghanistan at only 21 years of age. She later went to become a co-host of ABC Daytime's hit show, The View, which won its first Daytime Emmy during her time at the show. Ms. Ling is the co-author of Mother, Sister, Daughter, Bride, Rituals of Motherhood, as well as Somewhere Inside, One Sister's Captivity in North Korea and the Other's Fight to Bring Her Home, that she penned with her sister Laura. In 2014, President Obama appointed Lisa to the Commission on White House Fellows. Now please join me in welcoming Ms. Lisa Ling.
Maya, thank you for that fierce introduction. Good morning, everyone. Is it still morning? I think so, just barely. Family and friends, Board of Trustees, Archer School faculty, and graduates, you are truly a vision today. I am so honored to have been asked to deliver this commencement address today. At this very unique time in our history, it's so exciting for me to address our next generation of leaders. Today is a celebration. Graduates, you have reached an incredible milestone. You should be so proud of what you've accomplished during these years. The discoveries you've made, friendships you've built, the color wars you've won, the challenges you've overcome, and the tens of thousands of dollars your parents have spent. All of these things have helped prepare you for what will undoubtedly become an incredible new journey in your lives. My most heartfelt congratulations. I imagine you're probably feeling pretty nervous right now, a little overwhelmed, but don't worry, because nothing could be as hard as doing Knowles 3 times. You know this is true, right? Now, some of you entered the Archer School when you were just girls, 12-year-old 6th graders who couldn't have possibly anticipated the young women you would become. The following year, you were joined by another group of girls who entered the 7th grade fresh out of elementary schools that spanned all across the city of Los Angeles and beyond. By 9th grade, the rest of you joined to complete the circle of sisters who sit here today. Some of you were handpicked from an impressive pool of hundreds of applicants, and others came to continue the Archer School tradition of excellence, achievement, and leadership, qualities that could not be more urgent than right now. As we all know, the world has become an increasingly unpredictable place. Our culture seems to have been beset by an amalgam of megalomania, immorality, and a general sense of disarray. And maybe it's because our news cycle moves so fast that our reactions have become little more than ephemeral waves when shocking things happen. But at times, it's hard not to believe that we are living in an arguable modern take on The Lord of the Flies. When some of you told me that you all read this novel your freshman year, I wondered what it would be like to discuss the William Golding work about a group of very young boys stranded on an island who would come to abandon order, morality, and social constructs and default to their innate tendencies toward cruelty and violence. What was it like to read it on a campus filled with smart, civilized young feminists? As you recall from the novel, when the boys first arrive on the island, they adhere to their normal ways, structure bestowed on them by the civilized environment into which they were raised. But then things get a little crazy, especially when a power struggle ensues between the two leaders, Jack and Ralph, and it eventually incites a split. Jack eventually wins out by promising to hunt and kill a phantom beast living in the jungle, promoting a campaign of fear and distrust. Sound familiar? It struck me that as a woman, had the plane consisted entirely of girls, would that level of barbarity and incivility ensued? Perhaps, but not without a great deal of discussion, analysis, and more discussion. Now, to all the men in the audience, I in no way want you to think that this is going to be a condemnation of the male species. There have been many, many men who have advocated for women and women's rights. But much has been said about male ego and its impact on governing. It's been a constant theme throughout literature, history, and the world. I mean, look what happened to Marji's Islamic Republic of Iran after the revolution in 1979, when all the all-male prophets took over, where, as you read in Persepolis, even educated women could get beaten for being improperly dressed. And there's Homer's Odysseus, about whom you read your sophomore year, who feels compelled to butcher all 108 of Penelope's suitors, and in the process gets all of his own men killed as well. Now, he was victorious, and it's easy to herald him as a hero given his stature in ancient literature, but was he really? All of this is to say that it's time to change the narrative. There are many... There are many, many female protagonists in stories old and new, but it's time for women to assume their rightful roles as leaders. Because we all know that societies are better when women have seats at the table. Now, sadly, there are far too few examples to cite of countries in the world where women have at least an equal seat. But there is Rwanda. In 1994, that country underwent one of the worst genocides in human history. An estimated 800,000 people were killed over the course of 100 days. Talk about the Lord of the Flies on a massive scale. Today, though, Rwanda has one of the strongest economies in all of Africa. I visited that country in the early 2000s, and I was astounded by how immaculate, safe, and well-run the country was. How was it possible that Rwanda could turn things around in such a short period of time, especially after enduring such a devastating conflict? The answer? Women. Women literally rebuilt the country. So many men were killed during the Rwandan genocide that, according to a study conducted by UC Berkeley, the 70% of the remaining population of the former patriarchal country were women. And as a result, desperate for competent leadership in an effort to rebuild, women were pushed to the fore in every industry, including government. Now, we're constantly talking about gender equality in this country, and while we still are fairly far from it, Rwanda is less than a handful of countries that have actually achieved gender equality. In fact, women hold over 64% of seats in parliament, compared with 22% worldwide. And under this mostly female parliament, life expectancy, literacy, enrollment in school, spending on healthcare have all improved. Women are now able to own land and inherit from their parents. Now, this isn't to say that conditions for women in Rwanda are by any means perfect. Allegations of corruption and harassment continue to plague Rwanda's president. And at the end of the day, the decades-old culture of male superiority continues to promote the idea of girls taking a backseat to boys, women to men. But there is, however, no denying that women rose to the occasion when so many thousands of the country's men perished. It was women who brought Rwanda back from the brink because of their leadership abilities. But are women actually better leaders than men? Well, not long ago, the Harvard Business Review conducted a survey of 7,200 leaders who worked with, they polled women, people who worked with those leaders in 16 leadership competencies, some of which were takes initiative, drives for results, builds relationships, teamwork, communicates powerfully. What do you think happened? Well, they found that women outscored men in all but one of the competencies, and in 12 of the 16, women scored better by significant margins. Now, there are other studies that indicate that companies that have a higher representation of women in management are more profitable and have higher employee productivity. And yet, as a result, as of last year, only 32 of Fortune's 1,000 most successful companies were headed by women. And those ratios are similar in almost every industry. Now, many of us thought that women were about to celebrate a symbolic victory in 2016, at least as far as politics were concerned. It was your junior year, and you all bore witness to one of the most historic elections of our time, perhaps the most poignant for all of you. It was the first time a woman was nominated by a major party to be on the ticket for the highest office in the land. And although you are all too young to vote, I can only imagine what the climate must have been like at Archer. I learned that many members of the teaching staff, and as well as students, were quite devastated in the aftermath of the election. I was told that the next day was Founders' Day, which is a day that is usually a celebratory one, but it was mired in feelings of disbelief. And whether you were a Hillary Clinton supporter or not, it would be difficult to argue that the election brought about disturbing levels of malevolence and sexism. It was a crushing blow to many and sadly perpetuated a notion that women aren't ready for the top job, here in this country anyway. Now, Hillary Clinton certainly had her flaws, but political agenda aside, and I truly, truly mean that, it was hard to accept that someone who had referred to women in such pejorative ways publicly had just been elected to lead all of us. The 2000... I really am trying not to be political, and I won't be. The 2016 election was one of the most galvanizing events of our lives. And after the initial shock wore off, well, I know it really hasn't worn off completely, but women in particular have felt moved to act and be part of something. The day after the presidential inauguration, an estimated 4 million Americans in cities across the country showed up to participate in women's marches. Most of you took to the streets of downtown Los Angeles, the site of the largest march in the country, to demand that your voices be heard. When I asked some of you, when I visited the school, what it felt like to be part of the largest single demonstration in American history, some of you said it was incredibly empowering. I felt stronger and more capable. It was incredible to advocate for ourselves. While it was incredible to be amongst throngs of like-minded people standing up for equality and equal representation, I do long for the days when those marches are no longer necessary, because women, frankly, aren't going to march their way to equality. Look, it's a given that women have to work hard. In many cases, we have to work harder to prove ourselves. But we also have to be able to stand up for ourselves and demand what we're worth. You'd be surprised by how many women don't. For a long time, I was one of them. I have a bit of an LA story to tell you right now, but since we are in LA, I won't feel as bad about telling it. Years and years ago, I had a show on a network, and it was performing fairly well. We were 2 seasons in when I got a call from an executive who told me that at the Television Critics Association, or TCA, and this is where the networks come and present their new shows and shows that are going to be renewed to the press, she said to me, well, we're going to announce that your show is going to get picked up for another season, which this was exciting to me. But we're also going to announce that this man, this man, this man, and this man, I'm not going to say their names, are going to get renewed for an additional season. My heart sunk. I was at a loss for words, and somehow I got up the courage to say, well, that's really diverse of you. I truly felt apoplectic, and I hung up the phone and called my agent. I know that was also very LA of me, but... And I said to him, look, if anyone asks me at TCA why my show didn't get renewed for a second season, I will say to them, well, maybe it's because I'm not white and male enough. It wasn't that I was happy about saying something like that. I wish I really didn't have to do it, because I truly don't believe there was malicious intent behind what the network was doing. But as a young Asian woman who was constantly expressing gratitude to have the opportunities I was given, and as someone who never wanted to rock the boat or get into a confrontational situation, I just don't know if the executives really saw me. I was content and appreciative of all I had. And it's what a lot of women who were not raised to push or stand up for oneself does. If I knew, though, at that time, if I didn't speak up, I would be doing a disservice to myself and to all womankind. Ironically, that same female executive who called me that day was someone that I respected quite a lot. I know that when she called me, she was relaying information that someone above her had decided. In fact, it was she who was experiencing a high level of success with a specific genre of programming. One of her successes was my show. Now, she was a senior VP whom everyone credited with bringing the network out of the abyss, and she was responsible for putting the highest rated shows and personalities on the air. For all practical purposes, she ran the network. Her boss, the head of the network, was a very well-known figure and had a lot of successes in his own right, but the things that he had enacted and put on air at the network were nowhere nearly as worthy of adulation as what she had put on the air. I would often joke with her about how she should be running the network, but she would always demur and express her contentedness with her role. She said more than once that she never wanted to have the top job. I wondered, in fact, if that was true or not. Her children were grown, so I couldn't imagine her feeling the need for more work-life balance, because she, in actuality, spent far more time at the office working than her superior. But women systematically underestimate their own abilities. My gut tells me if she were an Archer girl, that wouldn't have happened. She, in all likelihood, would have sought out the top job because she would have known how deserving and capable she was from day one. She would have stood up for herself during any negotiation and made certain she would not be overlooked, especially if her work was commensurate, if not better, than her colleagues. The reality is that this image of all of you looking so beautiful in your gowns and your crowns is kind of a scary one for a certain percentage of the world. There will always be people who fear strong women. The trick is for all of you is to not let that fear hinder you or set you back in any way, But you won't, because you're an Archer girl. You have decided, you have discussed sexism at length, and you can identify it and respond to it if it rears its ugly head. You know, that age-old debate about whether leadership is something one is born with or fostered doesn't really apply to you, because you are the embodiment of both of those things. You were born leaders, otherwise you wouldn't be here. And over the last 4 to 7 years, you've been exposed to the most extraordinary learning experiences, both in school and at home, and also in the world. You are the leaders we've been waiting for. So much has changed in the last couple of years. Women are feeling more empowered than ever to stand up for themselves. And Archer School Class of 2018, you have the world in the palm of your hands. You have been given the greatest gift imaginable in being able to attend this fine institution, especially at this consequential time in history. Over the course of the last few years, you have procured the necessary tools to incite change. You have this extraordinary group of friends and family members who support you. You are smart. You are powerful. You can do anything. Your potential is unlimited. You are, and always will be, Archer girls. Class of 2018, I wish you the very, very best. We cannot wait to see what you have in store for us. Thank you.
As I sit up here today with the class of 2018, all I can think about is how this is the last time we'll ever be together as a group, at least as the people we are today. As scary as this thought is, this last only foreshadows the countless firsts that we'll encounter in the upcoming years. So, in the spirit of firsts, I'd like to bring you all back to my first day of senior year. This year, my first day commute looked a little different than usual. Unlike previous years, I rode my bike to the bus stop on the first day of school. As I half pedaled, half teetered down my driveway, I took an unfortunate fall and ended up at the hospital awaiting the 4 stitches that would be sewn painfully into my chin. My dad, naturally, was very concerned about my injury. I, on the other hand, was more preoccupied with the thought of missing the first day of school. As I sat in the hospital room in my disheveled Archer uniform, it struck me, much like my chin struck the concrete, that I was about to miss my first day of senior year. If I failed to make it to school on time, I would never again hear Miss English introduce the theme of the upcoming year, or pose for the yearbook picture with my head tilted just so. This would be the last time I would come to Archer expecting the shrieks of reunion, the thrilling stories shared over bus seats, and the welcoming feeling of the wheels jolting through the front gates. For those of you who are wondering, I made it to school and didn't miss a single minute of class. That's how much I wanted to be at Archer on my last first day of high school. As Miss English discussed on that eventful first day, there are many ways that love manifests itself in our lives. We love our family, our friends, our pets, even our favorite pair of shoes. But what does it mean to really love something? The New Oxford American Dictionary defines love as, quote, an intense feeling of deep affection. Sure, that basically covers it. But I think love is more than simple affection. I don't think love can necessarily be summed up in a few words. Love is made up of actions, of images, of moments. Some of these moments will fade with the past. Others will stay with us forever, coalescing into a colorful, kaleidoscopic quilt in our memories. Like that time in the 11th grade that I went across the street unprepared as any bona fide California girl for the rain that drenched me to the bone. When I got back to Archer, I draped my scarf and sweatshirt over the kiln in the ceramics room and walked around barefoot for an hour. Or all those theater tech weeks spent in a state of constant stress, made worth it not only by the show at the end of the tunnel, but for the nightly gatherings on the dining hall floor. To me, these are images of hearth and of home, of warming your hands over a fire and sharing the best part of your day at the dinner table. Of course, this instantly makes sense to me, because Archer is not just a high school, it's a home. The girls sitting beside me on this stage are not just my classmates, they are my family. This idea really hit me when I was sitting in the audience this year at the night of dance. The senior dancers were on stage in these beautiful white dresses, holding glowing stars above their heads. Seniors were sitting next to me in both directions. We had taken up the entire row. We were cheering, we were yelling our throats raw for our sisters up on that stage. It was this transcendental moment, a strange kind of revelation that brought my time at Archer into a whole new light and made goosebumps pop up along my arms. I've been holding that image of stars in my mind since the night of dance. When I was younger, I wanted to be an astronaut. While I've learned since then that the job requires more science than I am emotionally equipped to handle, I still think we can all be astronauts, at least metaphorically. Sitting in the audience that night, I felt like an astronaut. I watched the senior dancers in their glowing dresses and imagined myself in a spaceship high above the earth, looking out over the world and the stars. Archer has taught us to be astronauts. We've had to train hard and dedicate ourselves if we wanted to learn how to survive in an environment devoid of oxygen and gravity. We've had to learn how to learn so we can explore the universe and discover new things and maybe even find new forms of life. We've been orbiting now for a few years, and we're almost ready for that part where the supports will drop away and we will be launched into the unknown. Right now is the first moment we've ever been able to stop and consciously look back at Earth. Now, when we look down through space, we can see a fully formed planet, where before we could only see muddled landscapes and unidentifiable forms. We have the choice to see something beautiful, something tinged rosy and ideal by nostalgia, or we can focus on the challenges that got us here, the days when we thought we might run out of fuel or crash land in the ocean. I know I have a tendency to concentrate only on the good parts of the past, but if you let the sun block out the sky, you're only going to go blind. It can also be tempting to let the harder parts eclipse the good ones, but that leaves you just as much in the dark. So I hope we can reflect with honesty. Know that you worked tirelessly to achieve your goals, and sometimes you wanted to give up. Know that you went on wild adventures and had some of the best days of your lives and learned some amazing, important things. And know that these experiences, good and bad, exciting and challenging, will always happen together. After all, there's a reason the expression labor of love exists. As we enter the next phase of spaceflight and the supports start to fall away, we might lose our balance. It's exhilarating to be out there on our own, but it's truly terrifying to face the unknown without these built-in mechanisms keeping us steady. In my experience, Archer girls are community builders. We know what a strong support system feels like, so we are able to seek it out and create it for ourselves. So when you're out there exploring new universes, remember how vital it is to have that foundation. Be that support for someone else, and know that you have the power to keep others in orbit. Try to find the beauty in temporality, in change. Know that a lot can be gained from creating something with a community, even if it won't last forever. It's okay if you don't archive it all, if some of it slips away. It's okay if you forget what it feels like to wear a uniform every day, or if you start nodding when you agree instead of snapping. In fact, it's better if we let ourselves change. Otherwise, we won't have any stories to tell each other. We won't be the same interesting, dynamic, multi-passionate women we are today. So take a moment to look over that horizon line. Look how far we've come. We've just traveled hundreds of miles through this strange, frightening, beautiful atmosphere together. Savor that feeling. Now, shift your attention to the sky above you. The sky littered with stars, with planets and galaxies and universes just waiting to be discovered. With firsts just waiting to be had. When you're out there exploring, remember the things you've learned here. Remember how to learn, how to love, and how to take risks. We may be going in different directions, but we all started on Earth. So when you feel scared or lost on some alien planet, know that there are 68 astronauts out there across the universe rooting for you. Know that you will never be alone out there among the stars. Thank you.
Hey. Greetings, everybody. Gemma, that was a wonderful speech. Miss Ling. Miss Ling, thank you for your words and for joining us today. Today is the 18th Archer graduation, and though I'm bewildered to think of it at times, I feel blessed to have been present for each one of them. And seniors, graduates, you were born into this world around the time I was born into Archer. And I'm very honored to be here with you today. It's not an easy moment for me. There's a recurring leave taking that a teacher has to weather. It's hard to see you all here and not simply back in class. In my classroom and out, you have exemplified some of the best things I have seen and see at Archer. You've become incredibly articulate. You are full of thought. You relish spontaneity and you care deeply about each other. You also dance like you love the world, though at prom it was more like a wrecking ball. but we all survived. You've made your mark at Archer, and we owe you thanks. Personally, I listen more intently. I am certainly a more amused and more joyful person for knowing you all. So I want to slow down the whirligig of time for a second, but that's a tough nut, time. There's this beautiful, really sad song with a little glimpse of hope called Who Knows Where the Time Goes by Sandy Denny. I like to think the title has kind of two readings. Who knows where the time goes, kind of nostalgic or like really worried about loss or age. But also, who knows where the time goes? You know, something we say when we have been so in the moment that we've escaped time, if only temporarily. The song's been covered by many people, and one of the best is Nina Simone. And there's this great live recording of her introducing the song at a concert in New York City in 1969. And she says, by the way, at this point, I was going to give you my Nina Simone voice. But my wife, Liz, told me that it was like just beyond my abilities. And so I'm going to trust her wisdom as I do. So Nina Simone says, sometimes in your life you will have occasion to say, what is this thing called time? You know, what is that? The clock. You go to work by the clock. You get your martini in the afternoon by the clock. That's for your parents. You get your coffee by the clock. You get on the plane at a certain time and it goes on and on. Where does it go? What does it do? Most of all, is it alive? Is it a thing that we cannot touch that is alive? And one day we look in the mirror and we say, where did the time go? That last bit is actually really depressing to me with the mirror. But somehow Nina Simone and the song, listening to music, makes it better. And another way, I think, to make it better is to trick time, to let yourself be in the liminal, to be aware of the liminal moments in your life and set up mental shop for a bit, because sometimes we don't see the true or full shape of things until they are a long way away, and we take the time to look. I know that you all know that word liminal, because I cleverly asked all of your English teachers to drop it into conversation over the last month. It comes from the Latin limen, threshold. And there's this anthropologist, Victor Turner, who talks about liminality as this realm of hypothesis, where there's a certain freedom to juggle the factors of existence, to observe, to reflect, to witness. And here and now, like this is liminal, with a capital L, like you guys are on the cusp. But these moments, these rites of passage, are not the only moments of liminality. There are pauses, white space, what lies in the corner of your eye. A lot of interesting things take place out on the edges. The moment when an artist begins forming the clay in her hands, this is a liminal moment where time catches its breath. That late night or early morning span when your essay or your monologue or your argument began to become, this is liminal. The times when you laid down under the maypole and you looked up at the sky, this is liminal. When you go for those walks after school to clear your mind and retrace the landscape of the day, this is liminal. So my hope is that you are able to embrace these moments that are really a sort of magic amidst all the flurry and activity. Let the liminal guide that activity. For myself, I have loved the liminality we have shared, being inside book time and inside council time. And all this said, there comes a time to step off the cusp, off this stage. You don't want to get trapped in the liminal. There's a film that I love. Thanks, Pav, for the laugh. There's a film I love by Wim Wenders that I hope you all go out and see. It's called Wings of Desire, and you see life, human, mortal life, through the eyes of these angels who are in a sort of eternal liminal state. They witness and they watch and reflect on human thoughts, and they are in black and white. But there is one angel, Damiel, who becomes so curious, he yearns to feel what mortality is really like, to burst through into the color and to take part in all the messiness and emotions, and it turns out pain, but also love, and painful love. Damiel says, I'd like at each step, each gust of wind, to be able to say, now, now and now. It would be rather nice coming home after a long day to feed the cat, to have a fever, to be excited not only by the mind, but at last by a meal, by the line of a neck, by an ear, to feel how it is to take off shoes under a table and wriggle your toes barefoot. At last to guess instead of always knowing, to be able to say ah and oh and hey. So I think that we've given you tools at Archer to find some balance between finding time on the edges and running head first at life, between reflecting and acting. My sincere hope is that you can be at times those reflecting angels in repose, but also the bold women who say now, now, and now, and time's up. We sorely need you out there in our world, both meditating and doing. Allora. What is that feeling? Jack Kerouac writes in On the Road, when you're driving away from people and they recede on the plain till you see their specks dispersing. It's the too huge world vaulting us, and it's goodbye. But lean forward to the next crazy venture beneath the skies. Here for your next crazy adventure. I'm so excited for you, the new cities and books and questions and friends and food you're facing of strange changes. I'm actually excited for all of us here in our adventures to come. But I don't abide by Kerouac's dispersal. We do not need to be each other's specks. As Gemma said, Archer is home, and there is no place like home. We will not forget you, and to be sure, the best way to remember is through sharing stories. I urge you all to write and to post and to visit and to revisit, to stay connected so that we can remember together. So, it's time to think of other things. Shoes and ships and sealing wax and cabbages and canes. Good luck to you all. Thank you.
We will now begin the awarding of diplomas. Gracie Madigan Abrams. Anna Catherine Allgaier. Audrey Megan Angel. Joyce Marie Barahona. Claire Evelyn Bardeen. Lucia Henrietta McDonald Barker. Danny Fox Beauregard. Cameron Ray Bellamy. Omari Hernandez Benjamin. Rachel Elizabeth Bone. Gemma Rose Hope Brand Wolf. Jayla Renee Brown. Alexandra Brown Chang. Esther Pearl Defoe. Sydney Rose Davis. Summer Ashlyn DeVera. Noah Alina Diamond. Erica Rachel Dick. Dana Dwaji. Jael Maytal Elman. Elizabeth Himeko Endo. Sophie Evans Katz. Alexandra Megan Feldman. Rachel Ellen Ferreira. Portia Anais Freeman. Sarah Eslami Friedman. Jocelyn Celeste Garcia. Natasha Garreton. Sophia Garreton. Claire Alessia Germano. Sophie Rose Goldberg. Juliana Harper Goldsmith. Natalie Elizabeth Goldstein. Julia Sophia Haline. Uma Simone Halstead. Angie Allison Hernandez Lopez. Lily Ann Horton. Alexa Ryan Kretschmer. Ruby Victoria Krull. Helena Helvi Lan. Marlena Rain Lerner. Gabby Liu. Catherine Locke Luno. Gracie Irene Marks. Caitlin Raquel Mosh. Sarah Rose Newman. McCoy Olivia Obam. Catherine Macabagdal Oriel. Isabella Marie Peyro. Elise Hannah Pollock. Danielle Naotala Panay Roberts. Malia Leilani Ruvi. Nilofar Nelly Roserock. Megan McGowan Rolls. Anastasia Rosenbaum. Sydney Margaret Shintani. Rose Rebecca Schulman Litwin. Isabella Rose Simanowitz. Maren Grace O'Sullivan. Cameron Grace Thompson. Bella Faye Tofias Mora. Regina Valetova. Chloe Celia Weisberg. Sarah Starr Weiss. Maya Sydney Wernick. Dominique Kira White. Maya Louise Nelson Winkler. Saskia Wong Smith. Sibel Athena Jean. It is my honor to present the graduating class of 2000.